Hello and welcome. My name is Evgeny Rusakov and you're watching TVP World, interview from Vilnius. In late November, Georgian Prime Minister Irakli Kobakhidze said that his country would postpone EU accession talks until the end of 2028. That same evening, thousands of Georgians marched to the parliament building in Tbilisi and to central squares in other cities. To discuss the situation in Georgia and where it will all lead, we are joined today by the Lithuanian MP Žygimantas Pavilionis. Hello, Žygimantas, and very nice to see you today with us.
My pleasure.
Žygimantas, first of all, what's your take on what happened in Syria just a couple of days ago, and how is that connected to Georgia?
Well, it shows to the world that Russia is not so strong as before. Putin wanted to build a global empire. Syria was important to strengthen his presence in Middle East, but also in Africa. A lot of operations in Africa were going through Syria. But now, Russians are losing a lot of people, money and forces in occupied Ukrainian territories. And this is the time for forces of good to consolidate and strike whenever we can. This victory of free Syrians in Syria against the Assad regime is also a victory of Israelis who made quite important attack on Hezbollah, another terrorist group. I think this is also a very bad signal to Iran that should really be nervous now with Trump administration, knowing that they will stand with Israel. But also it's a signal for us. We have to consolidate forces of good and stop Russia and Ukraine and act, or like in countries like Georgia, where now it's like 50-50.
Okay, Žygimantas, apart from the signal that Kremlin is not that strong, what other signals are sent to Putin himself?
That he should expect something that is unexpected. That was the most known feature of Trump administration. Also, it is a signal for Europeans. We have to take more responsibility. It's laughable that we do not spend for defense. In recent interview, Trump was like again citing his own numbers about our support to Ukraine that are a bit wrong. But he thinks that he supports Ukraine like 4 times more than Europeans. So we will have to be more active in our neighborhood, in South and East. We will have to invest into defense with new Lithuanian defense commissioner. But we have to support him and do the right decisions in all EU capitals to be much stronger.
Okay, last question about Syria, but still in regards to Georgia and Russia. What could be the consequences of all those events that happened in Syria to both Russia and Georgia?
Well, I'm very disappointed, to be honest, remembering Polish Baltic leadership in 2008 when our presidents, with late President Kaczynski, landed in Tbilisi, already, with parts of Georgia taken by Russians. Today, Tbilisi is taken by Russians, and we do nothing. We, members of parliament, travel, we fight. I was there with current Polish ambassador in Washington, D.C., with Bogdan Klich. Then he was senator. Many other Baltic, Nordic, European MPs. I traveled already twice this year. Rasa Juknevičienė, our member of European Parliament, is traveling with different political groups because European Parliament made a strong resolution, as well as my parliament, I think, made the strongest resolution calling for new elections, saying that we will not maintain relations with this puppet Russian government or president they might elect in the parliament. We will continue maintaining our relations with Salome Zurabishvili, the current president, until new parliament elections. But Poland did nothing. Baltic states at least introduced individual sanctions to those thieves. But I would expect President Duda, Baltic presidents to land in Tbilisi soon. Actually, they have last days. We all know that European Council soon will meet in Brussels, and if those leaders will, are not able to defend freedom and democracy in Tbilisi before that council, so council will decide nothing. And Russians will take not only parts of Georgia, but Tbilisi also, by those political puppets of Bidzina Ivanishvili.
By the way, talking about sanctions against Georgia, do you think they make sense in this regards to what happened?
Yes, because they show to Bidzina people that there is no Orban way to European Union. If you want to become part of our family, you have to behave. You will not be able to steal elections, to steal economy, to steal state. State will not be in your pocket, Mr. Bidzina. But also, it's a signal to the people. Young people, they are losing eyes. Women are beaten. Opposition leaders are arrested. Is it Europe? It's not. It's Russia. It's Belarus.
Okay, let's come back to Prime Minister of Georgia, Irakli Kobakhidze. So he stated that his country would postpone EU accession talks until the end of 2028. Why would he do so?
Well, he's not even, I wouldn't call him even an individual. He's a puppet of Bidzina. It's impossible to steal money from the nation, to have the whole country in your pocket, being in EU and NATO. It's impossible. So they're just acting according to Bidzina instructions, because this so-called prime minister was also recently saying that he should eliminate all liberal fascist opposition. Eliminate opposition. This is very Putin, this is very Lukashenko, and he had many other statements. I remember him being a speaker of the parliament when I went 3 years ago when this Georgian Dream arrested opposition leader Nika Melia. He was saying the same thing. He was calling EPP party, my party, Europeans People Party, party of the current ruling party of Poland, a party of thieves, a party of criminals. Because opposition party UNM belongs to our family, our political family. That is the strongest of Europe. So he was calling our parties as parties of criminals, thieves, and even Bolsheviks. When I said what Bolsheviks has to do with Christian democracy, he was, I called, after that meeting, I discussed it with him for 2 hours in Lithuanian embassy. I started to call him a Rain Man, you know that movie. He's living inside, he doesn't, well, maybe he's smart, but smart in his own little Bidzina world, but not in our European world.
Here's another thing. I've read some articles and some Russian citizens that live in Georgia, that currently stay in Georgia at this specific moment, also took part in those rallies. So, and they say that they see the same processes that were going on in Russia 15 years ago. So the authoritarian regime is only just taking hold, but there is still an opportunity to turn the situation around. That's what they say. What do you think? Is this still possible to turn the situation around? And what has to be done to turn this situation around?
I think these are the last days, really. If we do nothing, if Polish president is not traveling to Tbilisi with Lithuanian, even those two presidents, they're powerful enough to come back to Brussels and say, it's enough. But if we don't do it, we have still hundreds of thousands of people in the streets. They will soon be in prison. It will be Belarus. We remember that little picture in 2020 in Belarus. So this will be exactly the situation. This is Putin's footprint. So if we want to save Georgia, and it's not only Georgia, it's also Armenia, courageous Pashinyan government who is trying to get rid of Russian chains. They're trying to signal to Europe, we will block Armenia's access to Europe by allowing Russians to take Georgia. And why do they need it? Because they will be using Georgian territory for all smuggled goods to fight and kill Ukrainians. So do we allow this country to become another Russia that will kill our brothers in Ukraine? And it's not the way.
Žygimantas, where's the problem then? I mean, is the problem in European Parliament, in Europe generally, or maybe in some European states? And so
I will make it very politically incorrect and raise another question addressing to Lithuanians and Poles. Did we become Germans or French already? That we don't care about freedom of others? Did we, become kind of Western Europeans that, are ready to sell freedom for money? And it's risky, of course, to fight for freedom. But this is who we are. And talking about Germany and France, Germany is going for elections. France is in disarray. Poland is also going to elections. America is also waiting for new administration. It's sad, but I think we have still powerful politicians, powerful bureaucracies, diplomatic service that always work. We have to act. This is our time. If our presidents don't go, it's a shame. It's simply a shame. As parliamentarians, we will fight, but somebody in administration, in president offices, don't do their job properly. People elected them to fight for freedom, and fight for freedom not only of ours, but of yours, like we did it from Middle Ages.
Okay, so you've mentioned this fighting for freedom, fighting for democracy. So as of the result of 2024 elections, the Georgian Dream won 89 of 150 seats in parliament. Washington and Brussels called for an investigation into all reports of irregularities, but nevertheless recognized the election results. So do you think it was right to protest in this case?
No international organization, no country recognize results as free and fair. According to different estimations, about 300,000 votes were stolen. Not all, but enough to have Bidzina, Ivanishvili to run for more than 12 years already. I met with all those electoral observers. They use all the methods we know on this planet: bribing, stealing the vote, intimidating, beating, taking ID cards and voting for another. So all possible votes. So elections started like at least half a year ago in different little villages. So for 100 Georgian liras, gels, you should vote for Georgian Dream. For 200, you should abstain from voting. For 300, you should also vote and come to demonstration. There is a question, do we have some villages who were not bribed by those money? So those are not elections. This is very Putin and Lukashenko type elections. We have many kind of elections in the East, but we have, Georgia is not Azerbaijan or even, any other country. It is a candidate to be a member of our club.
Well, it was.
It was. But, so in our club we have rules. And one of the rules, don't steal elections. If you steal elections, you are not part of the club.
Probably main question to close this conversation. What future awaits Georgia right now? What's your take?
If we do nothing, or we just do what we do now, nothing. We as European Union. Okay. Because Baltics did something. At least I would expect countries to introduce national sanctions to show that at least symbolically to show that we are not with you, Bidzina. We are with President Salome and with the people. And we are calling for new elections. Do it on national basis. Do it in plenaries. Do it by the government, even if Brussels is paralyzed, though I don't understand why Brussels is paralyzed. If we do it on national basis, we still might save Georgia. But if we don't do it, we have another Belarus. Or it means Russia is losing in Syria, but extending its borders in Caucasus.
Well, let's see what future brings us, but let's hope for a brighter future. Žygimantas, thank you so much for being with us today, and really hope to see you once again.
Thank you so much.
And I would like to remind our viewers that our guest for today was a Lithuanian MP, Žygimantas Pavilionis. You're watching TVP World. Stay with us.